but you got to be careful. I mean, you get into the throttle, and boy, does this thing go. Look at that. See, look, little oversteer, boom. Back to power. Welcome to Hagerty's Rated, the review show where we put a journalist and a race car driver into the same car to get their different points of view. At the end, we score the cars based on how they drive, how they feel, and how we think they'll age. Today, the BMW M8 Competition Coupe gets rated. The BMW M8 Competition Coupe. We've got 617 horsepower from a 4.4 liter twin turbo V8, 553 pound-feet of torque, and it just goes. Interior, really nice overall. What you'd expect for something in this price point, around 174, 175,000. A bit of an identity crisis with the car with this bright paint job on the outside. I could like it, but the styling, it's not something that's really crisp, fresh. Not something I would expect for a cutting edge vehicle. MSRP, it starts at $133. This one in particular, the one I'm actually in, is about $175K. So the packages that this particular model has, you've got the carbon ceramics, that's around $8,000. You've got the M driver's package that ups the overall top speed to about 189 miles an hour. Now Robb's gonna hop in this thing and he's gonna wheel the heck out of it. I know him, but I'm gonna go a little softer. I'm gonna drive it like maybe some other folks might do on some canyon roads. I'm gonna tone it down a little bit because that's what this is all about. But you gotta be careful. I mean, you get into the throttle and boy, does this thing go. So the M8 Competition Coupe, with that xDrive system, it has a beautiful feature built in. If you can get through the menus, you can even get this bad boy down into two-wheel drive mode. I call this American mode, burnout mode. It's got good width, good grip. You got 275mm tires up front, Michelin's 285 in the rear, just enough for it to kick out. The menus on this, there is a lot going on and it's not easy to figure out. All I really cared about, you can probably guess, was getting to the M modes and getting to the performance options that I wanted. So it's a little deep. It's a little tough to get through some of these menus. The sound, you can't get away from that. With these turbo engines, they do quiet it up a little bit, but on this, you could barely tell. I mean, it's got a nice grunt to it. Certainly the torque down low is fantastic. It does what it came here to do, I would say. Now I'm gonna take this bond burner and give it over to my good buddy and professional racing driver, Robb Holland.
Now, I've driven this car a couple times before, and I'll tell you right now, I love this car. The great thing about it is BMW's xDrive all-wheel drive system. It will send 100% of the power to the rear wheels. As the rear wheels start to lose grip, the power starts to transfer from the front, and then you end up with these huge, massive four-wheel drive drifts coming off the corners. Substantially better than almost anything out in the market right now. That doesn't make sense in a car that is designed for basically, long drives with the wife. Plenty of storage in this car, great comfortable interior. Everything is really well laid out. Now, The great thing about running all-wheel drive on the track is the stability. You can get the car on the brakes heavy into the corners, really load up the front nose, and as the rear starts to kick out, look at that. See, look, little oversteer, boom, back to power, and off of the corner. Now, the one thing with this car is that this is definitely not designed as a track car. It's just carrying a huge amount of weight. You know, even when you've got these massive carbon ceramics on here, getting into the corner, you can really feel the weight of this car. The engine's great. I'd love it to rev a little bit more. I mean, it just sounds a bit muted. You know, you really want the looks of this car to be way more aggressive, like big, bulging fender flares and you know, looks that are like, I'm gonna eat your sedan for lunch. And you know, with this car, you just don't get that. It's, you know, in some angles, it just looks like a very luxurious Ford Mustang, which is a bit disappointing when you're talking about spending $150,000 on a car. I think the biggest thing for me is the xDrive all-wheel drive system, but you can also get the xDrive system in the BMW M5 for probably $30,000 less. So I struggle sometimes with this car and who it's for and what it's able to do. I'd love to see this system work its way down onto, you know, BMW's lower M lines like the M3 and M4. But even still, I really enjoy the car, and I'm having a lot of fun with it on track right now. Before I forget to actually come back into the pits, let's go in, see what Kevin thought, and get this thing rated.
It's time now for the BMW M8 Competition Coupe to get rated. My score is right up here: handling and feel 8, approachability 4, sound 8, interior and tech 7, the look back 5, and timelessness a 4. Total 36.
You are a wise man and a very snappy dresser. All right, here are my scores. All right, I've got the same handling and feel score you do, 8. The BMW xDrive system is just brilliant. It's one of the best all-wheel drive systems out there, I think, right now. That's why I gave it an 8.
That's great. I'm right there with you, of course, and even good for a long drive up the coast or out to Vegas or anywhere around the country, really.
Yeah. Approachability, I gave it a 3. I just can't approach a $175,000 price tag for this car. There are 3 or 4 other good cars that I could buy for the price of this car.
I was mainly focusing on the horsepower, which is insane, 617 horsepower for any layman to pick up.
We totally agree on the sound, and I'm really not sure if it's because they're piping sound into the cockpit, because it sounds so good inside the car.
Agreed, and same thing. I think that's why I lowered it a little bit, because I know some of it inside is manufactured.
Fair enough. Interior and tech, I gave it a 9. I like the BMW interiors. I like all the tech in there. You've got multiple screens. The great thing about it too is the adjustability and the configuration of the car.
For me, we do disagree a little bit on this one. Let's figure the average person that's going to own this car probably has other cars in the fleet. They're going to get in and forget how to hit that memory button or find the M mode or that sort of thing.
Fair enough. Look back, I just don't find this car aggressive enough. You know, M in general has always been like big fender flares and big grills and vents and all of these things. And this car doesn't have any of that. So I kind of had to give it a 6.
You spend enough money on it, you should be able to turn back and look at it for a while and get some of that value back. And this one, not so much.
Timelessness, I gave it a 5. I just don't see this car being a car in 20, 30 years that we're gonna pine over, you know? The 8 Series were classic because they were full of tech and everything, but they haven't aged particularly well. I don't see this car doing the same thing.
I'm with you, Rob, and even more so because I feel like the average person who's gonna buy this car will be looking for the next one to come out and replace it with something just like it and continue that revolving door of a similar sort of car.
All right, our totals, you gave it a 36, I gave it a 39. I think we're in fairly close agreement there. For me, at $175,000, there are 3 or 4 other really good cars that we could go buy.
No, I agree. You mentioned the styling, so we could go buy 4 Mustangs. You keep 2, I keep 2. Let's go have some fun.
Let's do it.